So recently we found out just what dirty little secret Blizzard was keeping from us for patch 10.2.6. And well, it turned out it was something none of us quite expected. Yes, Blizzard revealed to us their latest World of Warcraft game mode, Plunderstorm, which is a pirate-themed World of Warcraft Battle Royale. No, your ears do not deceive you. This is indeed what patch 10.2.6 for Dragonflight has turned out to be, with Plunderstorm being a Battle Royale game mode that operates outside of the main game entirely, with no classes or prior equipment from your existing characters either. All your perks are built up throughout the game, and you have significantly less skills to use. And the last player or team alive wins like a standard Battle Royale. And well, the response to the game mode has been fairly mixed, but potentially edged overall towards a more positive look towards the reveal, with some saying it's what Blizzard needs to be doing to keep World of Warcraft fresh through new ideas. However, others argue it's a cynical attempt to patch over the disappointing PvP that Dragonflight has seen, and it's a sham of a patch that is completely unrelated to not just Dragonflight, but the main position of where WoW is headed with the war within, as well as given the fact the event is time limited to 6 weeks only, in an attempt to use FOMO, that's fear of missing out for any boomers there, to stir up some interest and make it seem popular. So it's a pretty interesting reveal overall, but is it one that is good for the long-term health of World of Warcraft? Let's find out. But just before we jump in, as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you're new here, as it helps me out a bunch. So thanks very much indeed. Now, let's get on with it. Now, as a heavy disclaimer, I am not a fan of the Battle Royale genre, as I'm mostly scarred from trying out Fortnite years ago when it first burst onto the scene, and after regularly being killed by kids, who proceeded to then laugh and mock me down their microphones, I decided Battle Royales were too slow and not for me. But it was mainly due to the shameful experience my ego could no longer take, and they just make me feel old. So I think it's only fair to look at the good aspects to the reveal of Plunderstorm, albeit in the form of patch 10.2.6. I think generally speaking, I'm glad to see the WoW team experimenting with some new ideas and bringing new features to World of Warcraft as a franchise, and branching out to test different ways of keeping players interested or enticing new players in through these new game modes set outside of regular WoW, where players can join in fresh and not feel left behind, or more specifically, feel 20 years behind schedule. As a big criticism of WoW has always been that new players simply might not have any interest in a game where it feels like there's too much catch-up. And with Plunderstorm, there are no existing classes, storylines, mounts, or the like. So someone can pick up the game and feel just a part of it as someone who's played WoW for the past 15 years, which really does hold merit for getting new potential players interested. So Plunderstorm to me sits happily alongside Season of Discovery in this aspect, where the appeal to new players could be massive. The only issue currently being that Plunderstorm is still stuck behind the WoW subscription, and I doubt that new players would want to sub just to test it out. However, this time limit is likely due to Plunderstorm clearly being something to test the water, and I don't see the 6-week tendency to be a way to create FOMO, but rather to reflect a test run period to iron out some details where any issues or radical changes can be implemented. To me, this is a smart choice and I'm not against it. If there is literally no demand or player commitment by the existing WoW audience, you can probably forget getting any new players in for sure. And here's the thing, there's a lot of people who don't even like PvP in World of Warcraft, so if this isn't for you, you don't need to worry about the time frame at all, or try and disguise it as something to miss out on. It's once again like how before Blizzard want to commit to Classic Plus, we're clearly getting Season of Discovery for a year or so as a big test run to see what players like and don't like. And I think even at first glance, as someone who's not interested in the Battle Royale genre, Plunderstorm really does look like good fun to me, and again it's taking place outside of Dragonflight, so any lasting issues that it might have had won't affect the current game. And hey, I get the saltiness. I was expecting something else, and not in a million years would I have guessed, let me read this here again, a World of Warcraft pirate-themed Battle Royale. But sometimes you just have to try and see the upsides to things, and I'd much rather see the WoW team trying to commit and try something new, rather than hype up and then release another 10-minute questline like 10.2.5. And I suppose it's also because I'm aware that Season 4 for Dragonflight is on the way, the War Within pre-patch is coming up, and then the War Within, seeing the start of the World Soul Saga, is also on the way. Just because this patch doesn't specifically tailor to my taste, and realistically doesn't even seem bad, doesn't mean I'm then going to proceed to be incredibly salty, even if it is slightly tempting. But alas, it's not entirely peach keen, and I do think some of the issues raised with this are pretty valid. I think the main issues did revolve around the secrecy of this patch, if you can even call it a patch, given that 10.2.6 takes place essentially outside of Dragonflight, without any story implications, and doesn't involve any of our characters or class changes, or have any any impact on the future, I think trying to market Plunderstorm as 10.2.6 of Dragonflight may have been a bit of a misstep from Blizzard. I do understand that this has come out technically in Dragonflight's tenure, but this is where the shouts for it being a botched attempt to make up for ignoring PvP during Dragonflight do make sense, as they're really aligning the stars for themselves on this one to extract that exact criticism, as realistically it's a Battle Royale game mode that shouldn't be on Dragonflight's timeline as 10.2.6. This should have likely been labelled as something else entirely, and as a result, if it's a timed event for 6 weeks, I get the shouts for FOMO also, as although I think it's set up to be a timed test run, I see why it comes across to some players as pressure to play and make sure you get in there and try it before it's gone, to make it look like the event is actually really popular and booming and a huge success. I think Plunderstorm would have been better labelled as a secret alternative game mode project for WoW, or simply a secret WoW event that still has nothing to do with Dragonflight, which isn't ideal if you're then trying to build up a secret 10.2.6 patch for Dragonflight, where the release then goes wrong and starts to build up even more hype, and as a Dragonflight player, you then see it's something completely unrelated to PvE and PvP, and nor is it something players have been particularly asking for. You are naturally going to be both disappointed and a bit confused, and I'm not surprised the cynical view some players are taking on it. When you say it out loud, it is madness. I'm not sure anyone saw a pirate-themed World of Warcraft Battle Royale being the secret 10.2.6 patch for Dragonflight. And just being honest, I think it could have easily stood on its own two legs, as Plunderstorm is seemingly getting a lot of hype, despite all these issues and shouts for criticisms. And even despite the fact that World of Warcraft releasing a Battle Royale game mode is arguably 4 years too late, there is still that hype like I just mentioned. But looking at things in terms of the long-term plan for World of Warcraft and the general health of the game, I think Plunderstorm could be a real success. And if the plan is for this 6-week trial to become something that's more permanent, I think Plunderstorm should be turned into a free-to-play game mode outside of the World of Warcraft subscription fee. This is a trend we've seen the past few years where you run a free-to-play Battle Royale alongside a main release, with Call of Duty being the biggest example of this. Currently in the Call of Duty franchise, we have Warzone, which is a free-to-play Battle Royale that runs alongside Modern Warfare 3, with Modern Warfare 3 being the most recent Call of Duty title, which you have to pay to play. So if someone hasn't tried COD before, or wants to see what the latest release after a few years of sitting out of COD, they can jump into Warzone for a free taste, and then if they fancy, turning into paid players. Seeing a trickle of free-to-play players, head out and try the latest release and purchase Modern Warfare 3. Now with WoW, there's always been the issue that it feels like there is a lot of barriers to entry for the game. However, if we have a popular free-to-play game mode that is a level playing field for all players like Plunderstorm is, and it's not going to confuse you with too many buttons or 20 years of storyline, or even more specifically, doesn't make you choose between 5 different versions of WoW, as it would be the only free-to-play game, it could be suggested that Plunderstorm as a long-term free-to-play option to get a quick taste of WoW on a more simpler level would be absolutely fantastic for the long-term health of the main game as well, seeing a trickle of new players through this method into retail WoW or classic WoW after getting used to Plunderstorm. And I'm going to be honest, I think having microtransactions in Plunderstorm to fund its development if it was free-to-play would still be fine by me. The only issue comes when Blizzard sees how cheaper it is to make Plunderstorm and WoW's main game gets sacked off immediately, but that's an argument for another day. I think overall, if Plunderstorm is successful in its original 6-week tenure, it does have the potential to do some good for World of Warcraft in terms of sustainability and bringing in new players if handled correctly. And right now in this moment, I think it's just a fun new game mode for WoW, and it's nice to see the WoW team experimenting with new game modes and seeing how we're evolving as a player base alongside trying to attract new players. However, I understand the criticisms, which I think realistically Blizzard brought upon themselves in the way in which Plunderstorm had been marketed as patch 10.2.6 for Dragonflight when realistically it's something entirely separate. I think only time will tell if long term it's good for WoW. And right now I think given the fact we're still heading into Season 4 for retail, and we have more phases for Season of Discovery, Cataclysm Classic is on its way, and we have the huge behemoth of the World Soul Saga starting fairly soon with the War Within, I'm fine with this most recent addition to WoW being something that isn't too specific to my taste, as I know there's still so much more to come that will be. But do let me know what you think. Is Plunderstorm to your liking any good fun? Or has the announcement for Plunderstorm left you one salty little boy? Be sure to let me know in the comments. As always, if you're new here, feel free to like and subscribe. And on that note, I think I'll say ta-ra for now, and I'll see you later.